Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Makbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we will be, of course, looking at what is going on in Punjab and the kind of constitutional crisis that exists there since, of course, starting from the announcement of the dissolution of assemblies in KP and Punjab by the PTI chairman, and then moving from there towards where we stand today. The governor earlier had asked for a vote of confidence from CM Punjab, which was later disposed of by the Speaker Punjab Assembly, terming it unconstitutional. And then we heard the governor also calling the Speaker's ruling unconstitutional. So, of course, we stand here in terms of really what exactly took place and which aspect of that was, in fact, unconstitutional or illegal. And we have differing legal opinions on the matter, but of course, what seems to be certain is that the matter will now be decided by the courts. There's also, of course, the issue of what is going to happen tomorrow. It is the date that was earlier announced by the PTI chairman for the dissolution of assemblies, but in what was hinted today by the Punjab Assembly Speaker and other PTI leaders and also the CMKP is that this will not be taking place tomorrow most likely, and that is going to be postponed till the first week of January until the crisis in Punjab is resolved. And since that doesn't happen, we're not going to be seeing any step taken in the KP Assembly as well. Of course, a no confidence motion is in place, so we're going to see whether or not that is in fact going to take place tomorrow, considering, of course, the current political setup stance on the matter of the CMship that the now Chief Minister Pervez Rai enjoys or not after the order of the governor of vote of confidence that was disposed of. So, if we, of course, stand at a constitutional and legal crisis in Punjab yet again, adding to more uncertainty with regards to our political situation and, of course, huge impacts for our economy as well. So today we're going to be focusing on what is going on in Punjab, how that is going to impact the political dynamics in the entire country, and what is going to be expected tomorrow, and how that is going to pan out for the different political parties. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farooq Patafi, and we have been joined online by political analyst Dr. Niaz Murtaza and legal expert barrister Humayun Sarfaraz Chatta. We've also been joined from the studios in Lahore by Mr. Osama Khavar Gumman, who's the law professor at LUMS and also Advocate High Court of Pakistan. Thank you very much, Mr. Osama, for taking the time out. Let me start with you, Dr. Niaz. Considering, of course, that when we take a look at the situation, there are many legal concerns that are being raised, and I'll be speaking to our legal experts for that. But in terms of where we stand today politically and in terms of the kind of crises that Punjab is witnessing, and in fact the entire country is witnessing in terms of the constitution, what do you make of the role that different political parties have had to play in this?
Well, it's unfortunate that, things have deteriorated to such an extent that there is hardly an administrative and governance structure left in Punjab. And, this week has been particularly bad, but if you look at it for the last 6 months, it's pretty much been, fits and start, at least 4 or 5 occasions when, there was this huge tumultuous events and it wasn't clear which way things are going. And now it's such a big political and legal mess that it's hard to figure out how this is going to get sorted out. And in the end, as you said, I think it's going to end up in courts, and whether even the courts can, fully satisfy everybody and come up with a resolution which will satisfy all the sides remains in doubt, because the courts have intervened 2 or 3 times already. There was this, sort of quasi-legal agreement arrangement that was arranged by the Supreme Court, which then led to, the continuation of the Hamza Sharif government, and then, the by-elections, and then the vote of no confidence and so on. But that still didn't, resolve the underlying problems. And, there's this huge tussle between two fairly equal parties, which, have about equal strength in the assemblies, within, the political system in Punjab. So it's going to, ultimately it's up to the parties to sit down and try to, resolve these issues rather than trying to, legalize them. But then, there is such little trust left between the two parties that that's not going to be possible. So there's no
Right.
easy way out.
Dr. Niaz, could you also clarify for us which particular two parties you're talking about that enjoy fairly equal stance?
Well, there
Because,
is
of
the
course, we
PTI,
have the PDM involved as well. Yes, go ahead.
the PTI and the PMLN, and with the PTI, there is a small party of with 10 seats, which is PMLQ, and with the PMLN, there is PPP, which has about 7 seats, and then a few independents. So they're fairly close to about 180 each, and that's why the problem is. So there are so many legal issues, and I'm sure the legal experts will be able to say more about that. But there are issues like whether the vote of confidence motion could have been called by the governor, whether now he can dismiss the chief minister because he the vote of confidence was not held. But then the other
Hmm.
side is that the decision not to hold the vote of confidence was not the chief minister, it was by the speaker. So can you hold the chief minister responsible for that and dismiss him? So a lot of legal issues which will ultimately go to the court.
Right, absolutely. And of course, we're going to take our legal expert's opinion on this as well. But let me start with you, Professor Osama. Considering that we have two sides talking about matters of the Constitution and both claiming what is being done as unconstitutional, we have the Speaker of the Punjab Assembly saying that the governor's order, in fact, was unconstitutional and illegal, and which is why it was disposed of. And then we have the governor also claiming that the Speaker's ruling on the matter was unconstitutional. Which one is it, in your opinion?
So well, thank you, Sada. So I think to understand this issue, we have to very briefly understand the constitutional structure and also what type of federation we are. So Pakistan, after the 18th Amendment, the governor and correspondingly president has been rendered as just a figurehead. But what is interesting is the original constitutional makers and also after the 18th Amendment, the role of the governor and the president has been retained. And it's a very significant sort of intervention that he can make, that he who ordinarily is a figurehead can ask, the constitution itself says, that can ask the chief minister to take a vote of confidence. And then there are consequences flowing from it. So I think the idea is that if that the constitution does not want an impostor or someone who has lost the confidence of the house to remain the chief minister of an entire province. So that is why this decision to assess and also ask the chief minister has been left to the discretion of the governor. So the speaker, in my humble view, does not have anything to do with it. This is a matter between the governor himself and the chief minister.
Sama, is there
and,
no
and
prerequisite
governor
to
in
the
his
governor's
discretion
order?
asked him, the maximum role of the speaker was just more sort of an officiating person. He did not have any role to deny the governor of his constitutional function. We have to remember
I understand
that the governor
does the
draws
governor
his
order
powers
have
from
no
the constitution
prerequisites?
itself, which is Article 130.
Right, Professor Osama, my question is, does the governor's order not have any
Could you repeat
prerequisites,
yourself,
such as
Sana?
what is being pointed out, like the session needs to be prorogued, or there needs to be 10 days time given, or the fact that there needs to be a satisfying reasoning behind this?
So Sana, fortunately, in one sense, that we have some guidance from Pakistan itself and also across the border in India. In India, this issue has been litigated several times, and here as well. So the only requirement the governor has in the constitution itself is that he should be satisfied. And ordinarily, the satisfaction is supposed to be a reasonable satisfaction. So it is not that one fine day governor wakes up and he says, oh, I'm in a bad mood, so I'm going to ask the chief minister to take a vote of confidence. So the courts have said historically, and our jurisprudence as well, that the satisfaction has to be some reasonable satisfaction. So that is the only prerequisite. The other entire debate that there has to, if the assembly is in session, so for example, if there's a chief minister and the speaker with his, of which ordinarily is from his same party, if they lose the confidence of the house and they can go on having the session for 3 years or like for entire 5 years and never prorogue it. This is just absurd, like constitutionally speaking and, and legally speaking. So this is a very specific power that has been given to the governor that he can summon, and only for this specific purpose. And as
All
you
right.
might have seen, that that this is the constitutional power which is given to the governor, and the rules of the assembly which have been framed pursuant to this. There's a rule number 22 which lays out very elaborate provisions that how is it to be done. And even in that rule, you see that the only role of the speaker is that he's supposed to conduct it and then inform the governor as soon as possible. So, and there's also written in the rule, I believe it's sub rule 7 of rule 22, where it'll be deemed that he has lost the confidence of the House. So once if the chief minister fails to take that vote of confidence on the date given by the governor, then it's deemed to be. And there's also constitutional logic even otherwise. In the constitution, there are two types of generally ways in which a chief minister can be removed or can go vacate the office. One is if he does it voluntarily, which is a resignation, and the other is if he's kicked out, either and which is the prerogative of either the members of the parliament, and also if he loses the confidence of the House and the governor intervenes. So in my humble opinion, that this is in the latter case, he ceases to be a member of, he ceases to be the chief minister himself, and so in that sense, I think this order by the speaker is entirely unconstitutional, and this
All
amounts
right.
to subversion.
All right. Let me also take
and
in
also it does
another,
not make
another
any
opinion
constitutional
on this
sense in a
matter,
sense
and
that the
let me go to
power
Chadha
given to
Saab
the
as well.
governor is the constitutional
Yes.
power, and he's relying.
There's a delay in
Absolutely,
audio.
yes. We're going to be speaking, of course, with regards to where we stand right now. Chatta Saab, what Osama Saab was saying is being echoed by a lot of political leaders as well, that we currently, the fact that there is no vote of confidence that has taken place according to the governor's orders, that the current chief minister is no longer the CM and is not considered a CM at the moment because he was unable to take a vote of confidence. Of course, there are constitutional question marks on this matter right now, but what do these question marks mean for tomorrow's session in terms of the no confidence motion as well, and in terms of what is going to be the future of the Punjab Assembly?
Sana, I think there is no clear answer to that because as far as constitutional matters are concerned, we always rely on the precedents, and when we do not have sufficient precedents to follow, the history or the matter takes its own course, and the history will decide whether it was done rightly or wrongly. As far as the technical objections which have been raised by the opposition, if the assembly is already in session, the session cannot be called by the governor. I think that is not substantiated or not based on any substantial point of law. I've gone through all the laws. There is not provided any provision in the law where the governor is barred from calling the session when assembly is already in session. I think that was the intention of the legislators when they legislated that the assembly could be in session when the governor asked for the vote of confidence. So I think the objections which have been raised by the governor are uncalled for, and especially the governor is relying on the Manzoor Vatu case, and that case is primarily on Article 234 of the Constitution, which deals with the governor rule or proclamation of the emergency. So I think this is also distinguishable. And
right, but what does that mean for the no confidence motion? Where do we stand on that?
No confidence movement. That really depends on the action of the governor. What will he do tomorrow or any other day about this vote of confidence? Let's say if he denotify the chief minister, then we will see the consequences. What will happen, or if he calls election in the assembly for the election of new chief minister. That really depends on the
All right,
action taken
and
by the
as
governor or
Chatta Sahab, I'll speak more on that because I have more questions on that. But Farooq, at least there's one thing that we know in terms of what is going to be the developing dynamic is that the dissolution of assembly seems to be stalled. We've been hearing statements from the CM in KP and the Speaker in Punjab Assembly hinting towards that. But of course, there's also the fact that if there is a vote of no confidence and if it fails, that the PTI side have been claiming that they will be dissolving the assemblies after that. But of course, there's no guarantee that that actually happens tomorrow. In terms of what the PTI earlier had announced and the objective for them to announce that, is this a development, do you think, that goes in anyone's favor at this point?
Right, Sana, and that is a million-dollar question. But will you allow me to also actually, correct that record? Because
Sure,
earlier, when Dr. Saab was actually mentioning the number game in Punjab Assembly, I thought that there was some confusion left. But let me clarify this. The Punjab Assembly has total 371 seats, out of which PTI, that is the main coalition partner in Punjab, enjoys support of 180 MPs, and then PMLN is second highest with 167. Where the numbers actually come neck and neck is after PMLN is joined by the coalition partners of PDM. So PDM has 180 seats and also PTI. 10 seats actually are with the actual ruling party in Punjab, that is PMLQ, and one independent is non-aligned. So this is the overall situation at this moment. And after the Supreme Court's interpretation, anybody who actually changes loyalty from one side to the other, their vote is not going to be counted. So this is important to bear in mind. But regarding who's going to benefit from what is going to happen and what exactly is the shape of things to come, it is a very serious question, because it seems, compared to noise and pressures yesterday, something seems to have shifted. Let me give you three, in the events that took place today as a proof.
Okay.
The first one was, of course, Saptan Khan, the Speaker of Punjab Assembly, when he spoke to the media. At that time, before that actually, it was thought that PTI is going to do something which is more PTI-like, and they are going to actually totally refuse to see either a governor's notification or this petition for the vote of no confidence, right? That did not happen. Saptan Khan actually came in front of camera and explained that he believes that his prerogatives should not be challenged. Tomorrow there is not going to be any vote of no confidence, but until the start of January, there's time, and there can't be any dissolution, because then the assembly has to dispose of the matter of vote of confidence or no confidence as well.
Okay.
So this is the first evidence. The second thing was on the streets of Lahore, because PTI also simultaneously had gone for street agitation surrounding the governor's house, and there they wanted to show a lot of foot traffic or a lot of street power. But I kept on changing screens. I kept on actually looking at PTI's own coverages as well on YouTube elsewhere, and I could not find many people on the streets. So what has shifted? We are going to talk about that as well. The third one was Imran Khan Saab's own speech, in which I felt, I don't know if everybody agreed or not, but he had lost the kind of aggression that we had seen before. He kept on blaming people, he kept on complaining about certain things, and he kept on urging people, for powers that be, to actually come to aid or rescue of his cause, a fresh election and all. But something seems to have shifted, and in the end, let me also point out, although I'm not going to, make that thing, bring it on record, but there's an extinction, political extinction level event going on in the background. Most of the media is not reporting that, but of course it is related to certain scandals. So that also might seems to have actually impacted the direction in which things are going. And I think that at this moment, all this talk of whether the assemblies are going to be dissolved or not is purely theoretical, because right now that moment has passed or it has shifted forward. And finally, one thing about the laws that we were talking about, you see, this country has seen 8th Amendment 58 to be, it has seen many powers that were vested with the office of governor and then of course president of Pakistan as well. Then we saw some kind of correction through 13th Amendment and eventually through 18th Amendment. But what has happened, Sana, because there was this attempt while 18th Amendment was being written, that a lot of effort went into building consensus. A lot of things which were perhaps that much contentious have been left untouched. So the office of governor does not have the power to arbitrarily dissolve the assembly, but many other powers still remain there. And because there hasn't been much debate on how to actually progress forward, we have this system where you see phantom presence of the past authoritarian powers or controls as well. So at this moment, when somebody is saying that governor has this power, and if somebody is saying that the speaker has this power, you'll have to reconcile with both, because both are not divorced realities.
Absolutely. Dr. Niaz, I'd like your opinion also in terms of what you thought of the PTI chairman's stance, whether or not there has been a shift on that, on PTI's popularity and the way people came out, and what seems to be the future strategy. And also add to that, considering the kind of reports that we've been hearing about the way forward from PMLN's or the current political setup side as well, especially in terms of what the governor may decide, or whether or not there is going to be an imposition of governor's rule that was also being contemplated. What do you think will be the way forward for the current political setup as well?
Well, yesterday, things were looking extremely dicey, and, the whole thing was, standing at the edge of the abyss. But it seems both sides have, taken a few steps backwards. So from the side of, the federal government, there was a threat that, the chief minister will be denotified, but, 24 hours have passed and that hasn't happened. There were, reports that uh, the speaker tried the president asking him to govern. That hasn't happened. And as part of pointing out,
Dr. Saab, can you repeat the last few sentences? Your voice was breaking up.
what I'm saying is that I think both sides have, stepped back from the
Yeah,
abyss.
absolutely.
The federal government had made its intentions clear that it was going to, denotify the chief minister. Now that would have been a huge escalation, but that hasn't happened. The PTI was threatening to write to the president asking him to remove the governor. That hasn't happened today. So I think both sides are trying to, step back, and maybe, there is some kind of negotiations happening behind the scene. And I think that's the right way forward, instead of, either side taking extremely extreme kind of actions that, escalate the situation on to the streets and lead to, the kind of fist fights that we saw back in April within the Punjab Assembly. I think it's in everybody's interest to, take a few steps backward and try to de-escalate and see if there is still a way forward. And maybe the way forward is for everybody to, keep away from their threats, for PTI to step back from its demands for, trying to dissolve the assembly and push for immediate elections, and for the federal government to stop trying to, de-seat the PTI government, and for them to have, a sort of a live and let live kind of a situation where, the PTI government completes its terms till August, and the federal government also does that, and, the PTI comes back to the assembly, the National Assembly. So I think the president is also, trying his level best to, reduce the distances and the tensions. And maybe we now have, I don't think anything is going to happen in the next 3 or 4 days in terms of, dissolution of the assembly and maybe
Hmm.
even in case of the denotification by the federal government, and that might give some space for saner heads to prevail on both sides. So that's my hope.
Absolutely. Mr. Osama, considering, of course, that when we talk about the no confidence motion, that was already perhaps some sort of a deterrent towards the dissolution of assemblies, irrespective of what the PTI has now decided to go ahead with. But when we take a look at when that's going to happen and how far we can take it, of course, there's a certain time limit to when the vote needs to be called in. And when we, of course, think about that no confidence motion, it means that is something that is going to eventually happen within a certain time frame. But is that also true considering the question marks on the vote of confidence and the current constitutional crisis that exists? Even in light of all that, is there a certainty of the no confidence motion taking place within a certain time frame?
So,
Professor.
Sana, there are two considerations. One is a legal answer, and the other is political legal. And considering recently there was a similar controversy back in April in the National Assembly concerning our ex-prime minister. So even then, the Constitution stipulates a clear-cut time frame. And this is very rare in the Constitution itself, that the Constitution minutely describes certain procedures that have to be followed, because that is not the purpose of the Constitution. So for the vote of no confidence, the Constitution itself provides the time frame. But even this was violated, as was noted by the Supreme Court earlier in the case of Imran Khan at the national level, so which appears to be a violation of the Constitution. But since there has been a precedent, and the Supreme Court itself did not initiate any proceedings, and neither did the opposition who then came into government, they also did not initiate any sort of proceedings for a very clear-cut violation of the Constitution. So that certainty which the Constitution was meant to provide has been eroded, because this has been a violation without any consequences. But it appears that the Constitution provides this, but it appears that this matter is also going to eventually go to the courts. So and then this is unfortunate that we have seen the judicialization of politics, which is otherwise a worldwide phenomenon, but in our polity, everything ends up going through the courts. And this issue I also see going to the courts eventually, and then it's going to become a very technical discussion, that when did the governor ask for the vote of confidence earlier, and did the members of the parliament, they submitted, who took that action first. So according to my understanding, governor asked for the vote of confidence first, and then later on the members of the provincial assembly, they submitted vote of no confidence. So if you go strictly according to what legally it should be, then first the matter of governor's vote of confidence should be disposed of, and then the speaker, and they should move on to the other matter. And then, since it appears that the speaker has already disregarded the constitutional role of the governor, and now he's planning to move with the vote of the no confidence. So what is
Professor
eventually
Ghumman,
going to
let me
happen
actually
once it
very
goes to
quickly
court,
ask you another
the
question
court is going
regarding
to
this.
again take
You were
these things
saying
into
that
consideration, and this matter.
the discussion is going to be very technical. Could you actually explain, is it that complicated an issue? Because it seems that in the end it is the question of what can amend the Constitution. Whether Constitution, which doesn't provide for any kind of qualifiers regarding Speaker's powers, can be amended by the rules of business. This, I don't think I'm getting.
I think we can take that from Chatta Saab as well.
This vote of no confidence.
We can take the same question from
defeated
Chatta
or
Saab. Yes,
whatever.
go ahead,
So
Chatta Saab.
so the issue.
Go ahead, Chatta Saab.
Well, I think this vote of confidence will have its consequences, and it will be a problem for the government or the chief minister. He might be held responsible in courts, or the federal government or the executive authority of the province can take some action regarding that. And as far as the powers of speaker are concerned, those are very much elaborated in the rules of procedure of the Punjab Assembly 1997. I don't think there is any confusion to that. Speaker is creating, I would say, a confusion in the minds of the constituents or in the mind of the public that he has some kind of power to overrule the summoning of session by the governor. Governor power is very elaborately written in the constitution, and then it is explained in Rule 22 of the Punjab Assembly Rules of Procedures.
No,
And
no, hang on.
I
Chattha
think
Sahab,
the
sorry
governor
to cut
has
you.
wrongly.
Chattha Sahab, sorry to cut you, but you're saying that you're speaking as if these two things are equal, as if rules of procedures are equal to the Constitution of Pakistan. When there is no restriction in the Constitution, should I conclude that somehow magically the rules of procedures have the capacity to install some kind of restrictions within Constitution, but despite not being able to amend the Constitution itself?
No, no, that is not the case. That is not the case. Governor power is elaborately written in the constitution, and
Yeah.
speaker is relying on the rule of procedure and is relying on some articles of the constitution, which are, I think, which does not help speaker as far as vote of confidence is concerned. I think they are taking the help of technicalities which in my view will not stand in the court of law, and courts will look into the intention of the makers of the constitution, and that is very much clear in my view. I think speaker the ruling which is made by the speaker is very much problematic for the lawyers to understand that how speaker is using some kind of power which he does not have in answer to the vote of confidence by the governor.
All right. Dr. Niaz, can you also shed light on what we've been hearing in terms of the numbers in the Punjab Assembly? And some political leaders were talking about the fact that there may be a shift in alliance and that there may be something going on with regards to negotiations with the PMLQ, and that if there is, in fact, a vote of no confidence, then we will be seeing some surprises for the PTI. Do you think that is a possibility?
And let me also qualify this question by actually putting here a proviso, Dr. Saab. We understand that flow crossing cannot take place when the vote of no confidence or vote of confidence takes place. But there is always a possibility that one party's members don't show up, and that can actually decrease the number in the second voting. Do you think that something of that sort might happen in coming days?
Well, if you compare the situation with the April situation, several weeks before the actual vote of no confidence, we had specific names and groups who had sprung up and were openly saying that, they've broken away from, the PTI. They were being housed in different, Punjab House, Sindh House, this and that. So far, we haven't seen anything like that. We saw, a meeting take place of the PMLQ where I think all 10 members, attended the session under the leadership of PMLQ and reposed their confidence in him. Then the other issue is that, if you talk about vote of no confidence, nobody can, cross the floor and vote for the other side. So, except, that's true for PTI. But for, PMLQ, there is a possibility that the whole party can, walk across and, join the federal government. But again, both Mr. Mohsin, Mr. Munis Elai and Pervez Elai have been very emphatic so far that they're going to stick with the Imran Khan. Of course, they were, they sprang a surprise at the last moment in April too, so you can't rule it out. But so far, I mean, you don't see any evidence of, much movements taking place and, people being put in safe houses. And because of, the judgment that the Supreme Court has given in terms of, floor crossing, so I don't see much movement going from the PTI on the vote of no confidence. On the vote of confidence, some people may abstain, and even the Supreme Court's verdict was very unclear about the vote of confidence. What will happen if some people of the ruling party don't show up to support the vote of confidence for the chief minister? How are you going to punish them? So that's very unclear. But I think the basic thing that we need to discuss is the political struggle, and the fact that Imran Khan is trying to force early elections, and how politically, morally, and legally valid his push is, and whether it's in Pakistan's good or not. And that political situation, I think, is very clear. I don't think Pakistan can afford elections at this moment, given the economic mess that we are in, and then because of also, the flood situation. What we need is, some sort of stability for the next 6 or 8 months, where relief can be provided to the people. And then I don't think this demand is even politically, morally valid, because it's all based on his, kind of conspiracy theory that he has been putting out, that he was removed illegally as part of a conspiracy by the establishment, the USA, and so far he's completely failed to provide any evidence of that. So I think his whole demand and the way he's trying to shake the system and bring it to a standstill and topple it is extremely unreasonable and condemnable.
Right. And with this demand of Farooq, we've of course been talking about this for a while, and we have this entire year gone by, and there's hardly so many months left to the general elections. And you earlier pointed out that, of course, there was the aspect of holding elections before November, and then now perhaps what the PTI seems to be aiming for is holding them before April. And it seems that the kind of moves that they've been using to call early elections on seems to be failing. The dissolution of assemblies was one earlier, the Long March was one, and we haven't really seen any progress on that, on their objective at that time. Do you think that eventually, with the way that the political situation is currently evolving, it'll be October?
Right, I think so. That election is going to take place on its own time. That was actually decided earlier, and nothing is going to actually prepone it. Despite the fact that, of course, there were these pressures that you kept on mentioning, and of course, I commented on that yesterday as well. But the fact that now dissolution of assemblies has been postponed at least till the start of January. If you go for simple maths, you will see that holding election before April is already out of the window. That means that it could also be of confidence building measure. But Sana, let me very humbly actually point out again, Dr. Saab, when he was talking about the need for 8-9 months for public relief, at this moment we are at a stage when we need 8-9 months only to reform the system so much, particularly regarding economics, that eventually we can provide relief to the people. So the relief that we are actually thinking about will not be provided within these 8 months, but during these 8 or at least 6 months, what we are going to do is, fiscal belt tightening. And after that, perhaps we will have the kind of fiscal space to start providing relief. So bear in mind that the political parties at this moment who are in power or are also political parties, if they continue the momentum of reforming and then all of a sudden they have to face the election, that becomes a problem as well. So remember, this argument is more complicated than it actually appears. But my concern right now is that if you look at what is going on, again, I'm going to say this once again or repeat it. I'm not going to dignify any scandal by bringing it up formally on this platform, because I think it is wrong. But let me honestly tell you that knowing the society that we live in and having actually put together electoral math year after year, I can tell you one thing for sure, that the scandal that is going on right now, and it hasn't ended, has the potential to end careers. So at this moment, I think that all this fear of somehow PTI becoming too big for its britches might be another thing that is just out there, but it is not that much important.
All right. Mr. Osama, my last question to you with regards to, of course, the fact that this question mark and these current political crises goes into the courts once again. How soon are we looking at in terms of clarity? Earlier we saw that there was a fast tracking of the court's decisions with regards to constitutional matters based on the kind of situation. Can we expect a similar thing happening with regards to the Punjab Assembly as well?
So I think it depends who who approaches the court. So it appears at this time, if the governor does not move logically to his second step, which is after once he has passed the order, he should perhaps the next logical step for the governor should be to denotify and perhaps then ask this same CM to continue in office till his successor is elected, which the constitution gives the governor a power. So given that the governor has not done this, and if the speaker goes ahead with his no confidence motion, and then that no confidence motion at this time appears that it will be defeated, the math doesn't add up, at least apparently for the opposition. So then perhaps one of the opposition members, as an aggrieved person, can go to the court, and that is when the court can take initiative. The problem with the governor is that the governor right now cannot go to the court himself, because the constitution bars the governor and the president to approach the court.
Right.
So if and the governor, the vote of confidence, remember, it is the discretion of the governor, not any member of the parliament. So it appears that if the governor does not move in with his option, then what is going to happen is that perhaps one of common citizens or a bar association or anyone other, an aggrieved party, can go to. So we are looking at roughly a month's time. This constitutional crisis can linger on if it goes to the courts. The court has to follow certain processes, and the court has to issue notices, hear both parties, and then winter vacations are over there. So we are safely looking at least a month's time in this crisis.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Osama Khaber, for joining us from Lahore studios. Thank you, Mr. Mayus Sarfaraz Chatta, and thank you, Dr. Niaz Murtaza, and of course, thank you, Farrell, for being a part of the debate. As always, there are so many question marks that still remain. Perhaps a few will be answered tomorrow, and there will be many others that will follow suit. But whatever is going to happen in Punjab or the rest of the country, we hope that the decision makers and the leaders of the country think about the country and its people first before anything else. That's, of course, the hope. That's all from the debate. We'll see you tomorrow.